Okay, people, today let's take a quick look at the Fresh Monkey Fiction Big Bad Workshop Operation Monster Force Wave 1. Does it seem like I'm yelling? Because I am. I had to get way back here to get all these boxes in frame. And it's probably not going to be as quick as you're thinking. Although technically, we're only going to be looking at 3 base bodies. There's the soldiers, who all share a body. There's the vampire troopers and Declan Van Helsing that share a body. And then the Forgotten King and Dracula use the same base. So I'll go in depth with one from each category, one from behind each door. And then after that, compare the reuse and what's changed and how they look beside each other, how they army build, how they become individual figures. You know, we're just going to have some fun looking at some new toys. Each package has essentially the same design work, but then it changes up with each character. You know, as packaging does. I don't know where I was going with that. But each package has the same story on the back if you want to pause and read that in depth. The Robo Notes version is the Forgotten King has risen, and you know the deal. He wants to take over the world. He has the power to mind control people and turn them into his army, so we get the Sleepwalker Heavy Weapons Division, the Sleepwalker Crimson Moon Division, and the Obsidian Elite Guardsman Sleepwalker. That just irks Declan Van Helsing. So he resurrects Dracula in order to form their own army, because the Forgotten King cannot control vampires. So we end up with Delta Red Urban Operations Trooper and the Delta Red Nocturnal Operations Trooper. Otherwise, the rest of the package has Monster Force logos and Big Bad Workshop and the names and the numbers, and down here's the barcode and the warnings. Small plastic parts. Don't put the new toy line in your mouth. There is Fresh Monkey Fiction logo and Big Bad Toy Store exclusive. So special thanks to Bill at Fresh Monkey Fiction and Big Bad Toy Store for sending these out so I can take a look at them, because I was excited about Monster Force. Now let's look at some toys. I did forget to mention that the flaps have comic pages on the inside. The ones that share the bodies share the same inside flap, so we'll look at those as they come along. Also, don't let the presentation through the window fool you. You see the figure, you see an alternate head, you see a couple of weapons and hands, but once you open it up, there is another baggie of stuff, along with that tombstone base that has Monster Force that you can either use like this as a gravestone, or there's foot pegs. Lay it down, it helps the figure stand up. Taking a look at the Crimson Moon Division Sleepwalker first, it's very army builder, in a red and black uniform with white stripes in places. The sculpt itself is a bit generic, and I don't mean that in a bad way, because it's supposed to be. It's just a random soldier. You zoom into here, and it's just pockets and buttons and wrinkles and clothing. Some high boots that come off as a bit plain, but it's a nice contrast to the detail work that's put in up here. And even that's not a super amount, it's just enough to make you think cannon fodder. This guy gets sent out to either help win the battle or not come back, and the Forgotten King does not care. It's the paint details that make it awesome. These emblems up here on the collar and how they're put on there, the epaulets up on the shoulders, this coming across the top, the edge of the glove, down on the knuckles, across on the belt, and then some nice detail work to the belt buckle. The outer leg of the pants, again, there's the black patch with white stripe around it. But you know what I'm about to point out, right? Look at the buttons all punched in. I love that extra effort. And while we're talking paint apps, there's also some splotchy dirtiness to it. There's some black down here on the pants, like he's been wading through it, and then it even gets up here on the jacket too. But my eyes are drawn to the helmet, that skull-like paintwork on the front. Sure, it's just a gas mask, but because of the white here, it comes off as kind of scary. It's intimidating. The fin coming up on top, it has more of that dirtiness to it to make it match the rest of the uniform, and then under that, these gas canisters. That one looked like it was unplugged, and okay, they are removable. I know what some of the stuff that comes with the accessory kit is now, because that does plug all the way in to match the other one. And then the red eyes beaming out. Imagine this guy marching towards you in the dark, and you can't really see much except for that white skull and maybe those lit up eyes just coming at you. The lower jacket is a completely separate piece that kind of just floats with it. If you arc back, you can push it up in there to make it look like one piece. That and the overlay on the torso are both nice, soft, rubbery material to get out of the way of articulation. Wouldn't have a problem sitting. And then the butterfly joint gets full movement because of the flexiness. Also, they did the separate neck piece that's articulated at both the bottom and the top, but they did it old school hinge style up there. And with that, we might as well get into articulation because it can look all the way up. Then kick the neck forward and down that far. A little bit of tilt on the ball at the top, but then the neck tilts too for full range. To the left, to the right. Like I said, there's a butterfly joint that goes forward and back. Pin at the shoulder rotates around with a hinge that goes to there. Bicep swivel. Double elbow goes up to there. Swivel at the wrist with a hinge in and out. There is some forward, some back, tilt, rotation. Ball coming out to the hip, kicks forward, kicks back, kicks out. Thigh swivel right at the edge of the jacket. That had to have been on purpose, right? Double knee comes up to about right there. Swivel at the top of the boot. Hinge at the ankle, kicks back, goes forward. Front-facing pin for rocker. For accessories in the package, there's 2 grips, then there's 2 splayed out hands, 2 fists, and of course 2 trigger finger hands. Let's see how this... Oh! Whoa! It's very secure, but it has no problem coming out either. Trigger finger hand in, good to go. In fact, it pops twice. There's 1 and then 2. Maybe that's to get more range in the hand. Up and down hinge on a trigger finger hand. That is perfect. You go here, and then, okay, a little further, it pops out to the next stop, but doesn't fall out. Trigger finger means guns, and look at this crazy thing. It's almost a sci-fi steampunk electricity something. I don't know what's going on here. It just looks cool. There's even an extra guard there for the fingers. That is nifty as all hell. But if you're army building, you can give different troopers different weapons because there's also this rifle. Same concept, same science behind how it works. It looks like a rifle, but then there's stuff that's going on that not quite sure, like this. Stock is a little thin, but it's got some flex to it. I'm not worried, but I'm also not going to get rowdy with it. And then if you don't want the skull looking head, that... Oh no, I pulled the whole neck off. Is that supposed to come? Okay. I didn't have to heat it up or anything. Just take that, push it back down in there. And again, the army builder aspect, there is an alternate head with a different type gas mask on it. Oh, different top too. Instead of the fin, it's got studs and they're all painted. You can also see the differences in the masks. The eyes aren't as sunken. The canisters go out to the side, different front. There's also this baggie of goodies. It looks like, yeah, blast effects for the weapons. There's a smoke effect that plugs into the barrel. Oh, there's another barrel here. And then there's an alternate helmet. It's a bit more generic, but I also really like the look. Did not have to paint this stuff in the back. There's yellow, there's blue, there's red, little silver right there. There's also ports in the back of the head, and that brings me to the other bag. This is to customize each trooper even more because it comes with all kinds of little things that plug together. But there's no right way, or wrong way, I guess, to plug them together. There's a backpack with some nice sculpt and paint, but there's also ports on each side of it for hoses or attachments, or what is this, some kind of landmine or something? This is to connect 2 hoses together. You can make extra long hose. There's this other connector piece that I guess hoses go in each side. Again, you can do whatever you want. Oh, okay, there's the peg that you can take and put there. Put that there for an elbow. Put it here, maybe? Or do this. There's another connector. I'm going to put that there. Ah, there's a hole for that. I'm going to put that there. There are 3 types of hoses. There's 2 longs, there are 2 mediums, and then there are 2 shorts, and those have a lot of flex to them. Oh yeah. And the rifle also has a port on the side. There is the gas canister swap out piece, just to change up the look a little bit. There you go. You can do what you want. There are loads of customization options with this figure, all these parts and pieces. Oh, I didn't even realize that there is an armband too. Slide that up and make it like a leader of the platoon or something going out and about. These hoses are flexible enough that it doesn't get in the way of anything. You can put that gun hand anywhere, look up, look to the side, look away, and it's not pulling out, it's all staying there. When you look at the package, it's hard to tell that it comes with all of this stuff, but again, Options are good, and this is a lot of options. And I almost forgot, the alternate head, the alternate helmet, the canisters on it also come off. The Obsidian Elite Trooper is the same body, the same figure, just in a different color scheme. It's black with red accents, kind of the opposite of this, and without the white. I like this, but I really like this, mostly because of the color scheme. It's black. Is there anything cooler? I love that the patches of red are a bit transparent. You can see the black through it. That helps it stand out from the edges. Same thing up here. It helps it blend into the darker color scheme. This also doesn't have the dirtiness to it, or at least as far as I can tell, it's just the black base color. Comes with all the same extra goodies. There's the backpack, there's the hoses, there's all the attachments, there's the blast effects. Not a huge difference to the rifle, it just has a brighter silver in places to help it stand out. And kind of works with the color scheme of the figure itself. Same thing goes for the pistol, just more silver. Also comes with the skull gas mask helmet head, and wait a second. Are those little rivets on that painted and the edge? Yeah, I'm liking the black uniform better. But it doesn't come with a version of this head from the first figure, so that's the big difference. Then the heavy weapons Sleepwalker brings something new to the table, besides a green color palette. There's the head that was missing from the second figure, and look, it has that same amount of nice paint detail. Well, okay, I'm gonna say it has even more. This one's mostly black, and then the red has a dirtiness to it, and the silver studs up here. This one has a patina to it. It's kind of even more steampunkish. But then dirty green up on top and gold to those studs or rivets or whatever those are. Oh, and the green eyes. I mean, I love the red, but ooh. Same body, but the green does something. Maybe it makes it even more uniformish. Like I said, I like this. I really like this. I may like this the best. It even has a little bit more paintwork to the belt buckle. This one didn't get that. This one didn't get that. All the buttons painted again, just in case you forgot about that. Then there's dark grayish pants with black patches, which, okay, that ties into the jacket and the gloves too. And this one brings back the dirtiness. There's a dustiness to the boots, and then a darker wash on the legs, and it's easier to see on the lighter green in places up here. Not so much on the back. Back of the arms though, and it's more apparent right there on the wrinkles in the sleeves. Also has the finned skull mask helmet, but without the skull motif. It's that same patina as the other mask. A little bit of gold, some dustiness up on the helmet, and those bright green eyes. I am loving that. It also comes with the third head that matches the other two, but again, there's some scuffs. I think he just wades into battle. Extra paintwork in the back, it's all red. Looks so good. Guess which pistol comes with this figure? You are correct, it's the green one. And I'm also noticing the first figure didn't have as much paint detail to the little kibble on the gun, but these two has some extra silver and red, or whatever the color scheme is that goes with that figure. But this one goes even further with the gold. So there's different levels. Same goes for the backpack. Here's the green uniform, here's the black uniform, here's the red uniform. You can see that there's less silver. It's a bit more drab. The black uniform gets more silver to it, it brightens it up a bit, and then the green gets the golds and the red. It just stands out a bit more. It also brings something unique to the table, at least as far as these troopers go. He's the heavy weapons guy. Here's his heavy weapon. Some glowing green and some silvers and some golds, and this turns whatever that is, the ammo canister. With the vampires and everything going on, this feels very Frankensteinish, and that may be part of the story that I haven't read yet. There's a port on bottom to attach a hose to the backpack. There's one on the side if you want to go double. Well, hell, there's one on the other side too. Then there's the muzzle ports, which I forgot to point out that the effects with this figure are green. And look at that, the pie plate here has some gold paintwork to it, and again, a little more aged with all the parts and pieces. And there's a red armband, which I guess you could switch to here or put here to help it stand out a bit more. Well, I say that's not too out of place, huh? Not only does each one come with a ton of stuff, you can interchange all that stuff between the three. Or if you buy two of each, there's 6, you end up with a lot of options. Moving into the good guy troops, the Delta Red, here's the comic book page on the inside of that flap. Looking at the Urban Operations Trooper first, it is again very generic, but we're dealing with army builders. course. There's a base body, there's a uniform look to it, but then for overlays and different add-on options, you can make them a bit more unique. But they're all gonna be vampires because that's the whole point. And I like the look of this sculpt. It's not overly vampire, except for the skin tone, the angry eyes, no pupils, pointy ears, the usual vampire stuff. Did I forget to mention fangs? Probably the most vampire thing. You have the chest overlay, kinda thick, sticks off the body. We'll get into that here in a minute, but the sculpt detail is very, very nice. Extra ammo sculpted into it, and this coming across with the paintwork for these little ties. It's like a flashlight sticking out of there. And are these some kind of grenades up on top? More than that though, the base green color with that dirtiness, yeah, that looks good. Come around to the back with the straps. Same for the belt. How many paint apps are used in this one spot? You have the silvers right here, you have black, you have kind of a grayish blue, there's some green to match up to the vest, more silver, more here, but then the shotgun shells, there's red and there's gold. Oh, and that button right there. Pretty plain for the base body. It's shirt, there's a slight texture coming down to a wrap around the sleeve. The hands have knuckle dusters, look metal, painted silver there. You get to the knees and there's some tactical knee pads going on. Kind of stands out from the rest of the uniform because, you would expect elbow pads maybe to go along with those. But it got a gray color with a wash to them, coming down to boots that have kind of laces going down the front. Soles on bottom. No sole in here though. A peg comes out of a hole. Probably easier to pop the head off and just slide this up and out. Got some muscle definition going on, some texture for the shirt. Don't think you can take the belt off though, and I wonder if something hooks to these. I'm getting ahead of myself. Here's the base body. Like I said, this thing is thick. It gets in the way of torso articulation, but here there's a ball at the waist, and then a dumbbell joint up top. Together, there's some crunch and some arc back, some tilt, rotation in both places. Just your standard joints. It's a nice base body. Talking about articulation, again, there is a hinge with a ball up top with a ball down at the bottom of the neck. Here we go, watch this. Up, down, a little bit of tilt up top, more tilt down bottom, blah. Blah, blah. Butterfly joint goes forward, goes back. Pin coming out to the shoulder, rotates around, hinges up to there. Swivel at the bicep. Double elbow, rotation at the wrist with a hinge going in and out. Dumbbell, ball joint, crunch, arc back, tilt, rotation. Ball at the hip, kicks up. There's a drop down. Oh, there's a drop down here too. It's slight, but it does give you, well, I don't know, that gets in the way. Without the drop down, it kind of kicks out to the side. It catches on the crotch, but if you drop it down, you can get it to kick up like that. Back and out, swivel at the thigh. Double knee goes up to there. Swivel at the boot. Hinge at the ankle goes back really far, goes forward nicely, and then front-facing pin for rocker. For accessories, there's the same array as the bad guy soldiers. There's the splayed-out hands, there's the fists, and then there is trigger finger hands. I don't know if it's a double pop here, but there is some space for the hand to come out a little bit for that extra range. You can see the pegs for the gear on the front, so those are removable. At least I'm going to keep pulling until, yeah, oh, that's one piece all the way across. Because then we dip into the extra accessory bag. There's blast effects for the rifle we haven't looked at yet. And there is, holy moly, what is going on here? I got ahead of myself. Here are elbow pads, and they match the knee pads. They just slip right on, easy peasy, and they get in the way a little bit, but that's plastic on plastic. I'm guessing I put that one upside down if I'm matching the aesthetic of the knee pads, of course. Thigh pads? Give me a holster. Yep, there's a holster. Like so. There's a pistol with some bluing up on top that goes down into there. Another thigh holster that we can put this, maybe? Is that for even more ammo? Even better, put the walkie-talkie in there, because he likes to walkie and he likes to talkie. This pouch with the button painted, don't forget about that, has a knife slot up on top, so it's actually a sheath. The round is painted up in the top. Can you swap stuff when the strap's already on there? There's these, whatever this is, I'm not sure, but plug it. Oh yeah, not a problem at all. Maybe that way. Grenades of some kind. That was on there in the package. There's also this heavier one with more shotgun shells. Wait a second, there's something here too. What goes there? What are these? Are these... Wait, are these shoulder pads? Okay, yeah, that's what those are. There's also this smaller pistol that I thought had a holster, but it doesn't, that I can see. We have loaded this up. Way more armored than I originally thought. A lot more layers to it. It almost seems off to put the unmasked head back on. Thankfully, there's a masked head that seems to fit this overall look of heaviness. That blue matches the pistol color, and it just looks more armored up, and it kind of goes around to the back in plates. There's also this alternate helmet. More riot gear. And of course, you put a skull on something, it makes it even more badass. Not only that, you can raise that up and there's another vampire under there. But then there's this piece that was in the baggie, and I'm guessing that you can change this out too. Well, I guess you could leave it like this if you want. You have to peg it in, and then it comes down to about right here and gives it just a different look. Again, different options if you get several of these figures. There's also this rifle, a bit tame looking compared to what we've seen so far, but you have all this. He can wander in with a regular machine gun, no problem. And I essentially loaded him up like the next figure, the Delta Red Nocturnal Operations Trooper. There's the same helmet, the shoulder pads, the leg straps. Okay, so it's gonna be another comparison color-wise. Before we move on, here's the Urban still. Nocturnal is up next. I was putting the grenades back on because I wanted him heavy, and I wanted to compare to the next figure. But as I was plugging those in, I realized that there's slots right there for more ammo. So it has even more storage than I realized. Yep, another port on the back. There, I got the radio on him again. So... I'll probably end up running across something else here in a minute. Okay, with that said, here is the Nocturnal Operations Trooper. Again, reuse of the previous figure, just with more tan and more camo. Not a huge difference in the vest, but enough. And then down low, the knee pads are darker and the boots are lighter. Same fantastic details and paintwork, just a different option. Same goes for the belt. It's just been changed to match the rest of the uniform. Getting up close to the bodysuit, you can see that it is an actual camouflage pattern. At a distance, it looks dirty. It blends in really nicely, but up close, it's intricate paintwork, and it's going all around to the back too. They did change the sculpt of the forearms though. On the Urban Operator, it's just sleeves. It's a long sleeve shirt. On the Nocturnal Operator, it's some kind of readout or laser or tracking device or something. The right arm has these two blue screen-like things, and then on the left, it's more down at the bottom. So I'm not quite sure, but they did paint the straps that are going on the inside, holding that piece on. And of course the accessories have different paintwork too. The grenades are more neutral color. The shoulder pads are red and black this go around, and oh, that would look awesome on Night Ops. No blue on the pistols this time, just little touches of red here and there, like on the triggers. The knife is black with a silver edge, and then there's the tan pouches and everything else. What's the, nope, same walkie-talkie. Not a whole lot of difference to the rifle at all. If anything, it's slightly lighter. Exact same alternate, okay. There is a difference. See the blue strap on the first one? That's silver on the second one. That's pretty much the big difference. You raise that up, same face. But then the third head's blacked out, whereas on the Urban Operator, it's got that blue sheen to it. That's all fine and dandy, but I think I'm gonna run this guy without the vest because it's Nocturnal Operations. That just makes me think ninja or stealthy, but that also makes me feel like he's kind of naked. There's all these options, and I'm gonna display them like this? I don't know. I may have to vest him up. That fills it out a bit more. Plus, he's gonna be worried about his welfare, right? He's a vampire. He can die. Gotta block the stakes. Then we'll put these on the back, just because. That brings us to Declan Van Helsing because he reuses some of those parts, but here's the comic page from the inside of his flap. Now the key word was some reuse. Reusing the vest, the torso, the shoulder, the biceps, the crotch piece, and the upper legs. But then there's new forearms arms because the sleeves are rolled up. New knee because there's no knee pad. New lower leg because the pants come down over the boot. And then of course a new head. It's an individual character. It's Declan. I like that they added camo to the vest. Kind of brings the camo over from the Nocturnal operative. Well, I guess I could turn it around and the back shows it better. So it matches up. So if you wanted to take this vest and give it to this guy to make him even more stealthy, then that would probably work. The exposed forearms have some tattoo work to them. There's a skull on this side, and I'm guessing this may be scripture or some kind of spell, maybe? Man, I need to break out the peepers because I can't see what that is. I do notice a little red on the inside, and then the head looks really good with that scar over the right eye. Like the others, you can change out things on the vest, pop these pouches out, change out this whole bottom section. I forgot to show it with the Nocturnal operative, but he also came with blast effects, and so does Declan. It has the straps for the upper legs, has the grenades, has the vest change out thing, a couple of the pouches, the holster, the knife, the small pistol, and the larger pistol. This time they're accented with gold. Knife is essentially the same. No shoulder pads, but there's all these hands that don't have gloves on them. And I point that out because it also came with the full assortment of hands from the other figures. Oh, it doesn't come with elbow pads either. But there is also one other different thing. I do believe this is supposed to be extra crossbow bolts. Crossbow bolts means one hell of a crossbow. It's sculpted in the loaded position, and then it has these extra bolts underneath, almost like it's an automatic feed. Or that's what it is to me, and that's what matters. Look at all the rivets, all the silver. There's red on the front of the sight. Then there's also this unique machine gun. Little red, little gold, little silver, little bayonet. I'm guessing that's a stake in case some of the vampires get out of line. He is a Van Helsing. His whole thing is to hunt down vampires. I went to change out the hands. These bands are separate pieces, so be careful with those. Bring on the fangs. Ready for monster hunting. Which brings us to Declan's unlikely ally with Dracula, and here's the comic page from that flap. Looking very regal. I have had experience with this body because I featured the Joe Fest exclusive Forgotten King in a Playday, and these essentially share the body. In fact, those boots look familiar. Okay, more reuse than I realized because these are the same legs as the Sleepwalkers. There's a slight seam line right here, but it's hidden by the overcoat. The shoulders and biceps are from the Delta Red Nocturnal operative. The lower arms, the sleeved look, is from the Urban operative. And then I can't tell what the torso is. And now that I look, the biceps are reused across all the figures, and I guess the same is true for the upper legs. It's just not as apparent because they change enough stuff up. The overlays, the overall look. Here it's changed into a fancy suit because of the vest and the ascot and the collar and then the long coat all being one overlay piece. Then of course the Dracula head looking all sleek with the slick back hair going back into a longer look here, the beard, the pointy ears, the angry eyebrows, and then of course the red eyes staring out at you. And it's the same skin tone as the Vampire Troopers, as it should be. So yeah, not as much to talk about as I thought there would be. Actually, the paint. I like the red collar coming down, and then it kind of kicks into that gray and black camo, but it's not camo. It's some kind of, you know, fancy dress, like I said a minute ago. So I guess going over articulation would be pretty much the same because, well, okay, the hair coming down like this does get in the way of looking up, but he can still look down. Wait, the collar also gets in the way of side to side. So he's a bit more hindered for being the king of the vampires, but still looks damn good doing it. Butterfly joint is unrestricted because of the rubberiness. Pin out to the shoulder goes all the way around, then hinges up to there. Good range to the double elbow. Swivel, hinge, probably full array. It does crunch about that far and then arc back. Okay, it's very tight. Drop down to the hip, kicks forward, kicks back, kicks out. Double knee right at the coat, so it's gonna pinch in there a little bit, but goes up to about right there. In the package, he has 2 grip hands, and then again, the same alternate hands, but they've been changed to be more vampire. There's claws on the end, or well, got long fingernails, whatever you want to call them. And that's true for the trigger finger hand too, even though he doesn't come with a gun. But with all the weapons and stuff that the other figures come with, you can throw the trigger finger hand in case, you know, on the battlefield, he runs by, scoops up a rifle, goes after the Forgotten King. But on my shelf, he's going to be holding the sword he comes with. It's silver for the blade, and then some bat wings for the guard, some gold at the hilt. Yeah, this looks good. But he'd be a bit more ferocious on the battlefield. So he comes with his alternate head bearing fangs and even angrier eyebrows. And that's it, which throws me a little bit because of all the stuff we've been through with the other figures, but it has to balance out, I guess, for the whole wave. To finish things off, here is the Forgotten King and his comic page. He's gathering Infinity Stones, and this was the one I was looking forward to the most. I love the rest so far, but man, there's just something about the gold on a white suit. Like we've established, there's a lot of reuse here, and this is mostly the Dracula formula. Same sculpt to the long jacket, but then the vest and tie changes things up. It may be hard to see, but on Dracula, this comes across with 2 rows of buttons. On the Forgotten King, there's 1 row of buttons, and it's just a regular modern type tie. That is on the torso because it is a separate piece that you can move side to side under the vest overlay. Painted gold buttons look so good. The head does it for me. Again, I've had this in person, but it was blue translucent plastic. I wanted to see it all painted up and in gold, and man, it looks so good. There's a darker gold up here on top, and you have the blue stripes coming through, and then the eyeballs peering through the mask. That just looks great over the bright white. It helps with that mummy feel. If it was in wraps, it would be white. Maybe not this bright, but it would still be this color scheme. It's just that in modern times, the Forgotten King is way more uptown. Way more movement to the head than Dracula because they left some space between the mask helmet thing and the body. There's also a little flex to this, so can look down and can look up. Tilt! For accessories in the package, there's 2 grip hands, but then there's all kinds of flavors of other hands. You have the trooper hands in white, except for the trigger fingers. He doesn't need trigger fingers. Then you have bare hands in fist and wide open, but then there's those same hands in blue translucent, along with some flat palmed hands for some magic wielding. Oh, and look, there's 2 magic effects with some flat planes and some bubbles in the middle and some rings. It just feels magical. You put that there and then plug the hand in outside of it, and it gives you this kind of look. So we can... I kind of love it. And to compare the translucency of the regular release to the exclusive is more frosty. You can see it better. Well, the standard release is much more clear. You can see my hand through it. Over here, not so much. So you can't mix and match between the 2. But if the fight gets closer, he also has this staff. And look at the paint apps up in here. And then there's your mummy wrap. There's 2 of these blades, which you could put on both ends, but I'm only going to put 1 on. Tight fit, goes on nicely. For the other end, I'm going to use this, and this is crazy. There's an awesomely painted skull with blue peering eyes, and then some motif on the outside that matches the Forgotten King's mask. Look, it goes together. There's even little skulls under the side, and then it wraps down to some jewels, just different colors. How many paint hits is this? So he has all the bases covered. He can hit you at a distance, he can hit you up close. He just looks amazing. Since Wave 1 shares a bunch of body parts, they all stand at about 6 3/8 inches tall. Now, the Forgotten King with the horns and stuff is a little bit taller, the fin here and there, but it's pretty even across. Having them all side by side like this, even knowing that there is shared parts, it's awesome how different they all feel or look even. And doesn't look too out of place with other lines like G.I. Joe Classified Series or Hasbro Marvel Legends. They'd also look pretty good on an MCU shelf. So at the end of the day, a kick-ass start to this toy line. All the basics for world building is here. You have your troopers for one side, you have your troopers for the other side, you have your leaders for both sides, and it can only go up from here. There's already other interesting characters on the way that's only going to add to the experience, and that's just cool to get in on the ground floor with. The biggest thing here is clever reuse and options. When I saw the original solicitation pictures and then the figures in the box when I got them, I didn't realize just how much reuse there is. There was thought put into it. It's not just blatant reuse all across the line. The overlays and the options do a lot to hide that and to make each character an individual of their own. I mean, look at this. These 3 troopers all use the same body, but quick glance, riding by on a horse, you wouldn't be able to tell because of how different they look. Same thing with these 3. You swap out some heads, some armor pieces, some overlays, 3 unique characters. And then the 2 big bads, or the big good and the big bad, they share parts too, but because of the color scheme and just the aesthetics of both of them, they don't seem like they're the same figure. So some may take that as a negative, and I can see that. I don't want to buy the same figure 8 times, but to me that just shows they're in it for the long haul, because yes, they are reusing parts, but we've seen other characters coming that's going to be new molds, and that's just going to add to the stockpile of future characters they can make. Take parts from here, take parts from here, take parts from here, put it together, and they're still making figures 10 years from now. Or take Monster Force and supplement your other shelves like I showed. These fit in with Marvel. These fit in with G.I. Joe. You could probably Star Wars them up a little bit. It's just more kick-ass figures for your shelf, for your display, for your collection. Ain't nothing wrong with that, is there?